because that's not my competent area. However, adding sustainability as, oops, I think I have to share my screen again. Yeah,
No, so we can see your screen.
can you see my screen? Okay, cool. Sorry. Yep. Uh, adding sustainability can make a better value addition for buildings, not only on terms of technical, but actually in marketing and selling propositions as well. So that's why we wanted to select this topic for the day and drill through it. So just before we start in the technical lineup for the day, I want to have a quick agreement with you all. So dare to ask question. There are no any stupid questions, maybe stupid answers. The other thing is actually I don't want to be play the role of keynote speaker here today. It's not a very formal kind of a session. Let's animate all together. If I made a kind of a mistake, raise hand and tell no, that's not true. I'm really happy to learn from all of you as well. More importantly, please collaborate whenever we ask questions, share ideas, because as I said, there aren't any stupid questions or no stupid answers. Yeah, we all here to learn, so please be collaborative. Okay, why sustainability is important in buildings? One aspect is the sector is growing. Um, so a key unit that we measure buildings is actually the floor size. So you can see the growth of the flow in a graph and the projections towards 2050. Obviously, uh, China is the global leader and will be the global leader even in 2050 when it's come to building the sizes. And I mean, other than that, India, Africa is going to have a rapid growth. So we've been close to this Indian subcontinent, and within Southeast Asia, we are also doubling the growth from 2015 to 2050. So that rings us bell. Hey, buildings are growing, and still it's an important sector. So when you look at how the change happened during last decade, so these are the latest readings from International Energy Association. So they published this data based on three segments: the baseline till 2013, and the leveling emissions, and what happened after leveling. Actually, it has increased. So you can see the green bar, the line that shows the increasing floor area trend, and the emissions which has gone down from 2013. Unfortunately, it has started increasing again from 2017 onwards. Particularly, I don't know the reason, but these are the high level snapshots. So what's happening with COVID-19? So it's a very interesting site. If you all can access G-Statistic, named for Google Statistics. Actually, this is just before this presentation I generated to G-Static, and I found this is the mobility trends of Sri Lanka. Now, the good thing is mobility has decreased, and it's actually contributing positively to our climate change or other greenhouse gas reduction. That's a positive sign. But what are the implications towards building from these numbers? So by the way, the baseline is actually last year, week 1, February last year. So whatever the the percentage is compared with last year, February first week. Um, so my first question to the forum, I want to learn your ideas as well. When you hear public transport reduces by 41%, what that means for building sector? Can someone raise a voice? I'm not going to ask by name. It's not nice. But do you have any idea what's the implication towards the building sector? This minus 41% figure.
Just says that people are not traveling; they are at home. So
Yeah,
the use of the public transport went down,
thanks for judging. Yeah,
coupled with the restrictions.
exactly. So either they're at home, as you said, else they give up public transport for a while and they started driving their own vehicles. Either can happen. Do you agree with me? Yeah. So what's the implication of reducing public transport and increasing private drone vehicles?
Well,
We'll have more vehicles coming to the cities and parking slots will be not enough for them. I mean, this is a very temporary situation, but still it has an implication with building and construction sector as well. Because now in future, uh, if the people start moving the same trend after COVID-19, post COVID-19 trends, what's going to happen? They will demand for more parking space in the office premises because they shifted from public transport to their own vehicles. So the reshift to public transport may be a bit difficult for them. I mean, it's a hypothetical case. I'm just talking. So it also shows that the workplaces, the mobility towards workplaces has dropped by 25%. But that's what does that mean? So if we continue the same trend, we are going to reduce the office space. Yeah. However, that same cohort has to start working from home. So if this continues, we will reduce the office space, but unfortunately, we have to increase the space in our houses. So we need to have a dedicated space in our houses for office work. That's not the context in current practice in usual Sri Lankan house. So why I selected this graph actually, I mean, even 1.5 years a pandemic context, which is not permanent. This is actually going to be a temporary context. It itself can impact on the building sector. It provides different messages to building sector. So this all demands more floor areas in some sectors, and it reduces floor areas in some sectors. Yeah. Okay. So that's talking about the demand side, and what's the impact side. So as of now, the building sector contributes nearly 40% of greenhouse gas emissions in throughout. So actually, the calculation contributes the impacts of construction material and the life cycle of buildings all together. So it's an increasing trend. Obviously, it has to increase because it's actually the absolute. So the question is, yeah, there's a big wish that applying all sustainability practices, we can, I mean, reduce the curve, but curbing is a very challenging um, actions at the moment. But certainly we want to go in the downturn. But the question is how. There are a lot of actions already been taken, but the conclusion is not enough. And shifting from greenhouse gases to other impacts. uh, so water is another area that's been impacted because of the construction and as well as the building throughout life cycle. So I mean, most of the time we tend to talk about greenhouse gases and this much we reduce, this is how we manage greenhouse gases, blah blah blah. But there are other environment impacts significantly impacting, contributing to the environmental impacts of the buildings. So if you look at some key raw materials and their contribution to the water footprint is significantly high. So it's essential understanding the big picture. So in most instances, what happened actually, we discuss about operational impacts. So the right side from the red bar here. However, there's huge, I mean, before the supply chain and after operation, end of life of a building. So there are huge impacts before operation and after operation as well. So in order to understand carbon or other impacts, we need to have a total life cycle understanding of buildings and constructions. And this is essential actually to discuss and agree on sustainability selling points as well. If you just confine yourself to the operational area, what's going to happen? Someone can easily pitch, hey, you are just greenwashing, or you want to keep something under carpet and you want to only present the good stuff with us. We don't want to have that blame while selling sustainability. So my first question comes here. Are you all convinced that sustainability is important for buildings and building sector is important in sustainability? So why I took that approach actually to convince you that sector is growing and it's contributing immensely towards well, more impactful on sustainability. And so we know the risks now. So now it's a time to find what are the opportunities by the identified risk. Okay, here we starts about sustainability. Now, talking sustainability, there will be different ideas come to your mind. However, so this is the best definition that I can find from 1987, Madame Brundtland's Our Common Future book. So you enjoy without disturbing future generations or resources. And sustainability actually is well defined. It's not only green aspect of environment, it's not the social only, it's not only the finance, but that's the triple bottom line, and where the overlap, that's sustainability. So more the overlap, we call it as a more sustainable system. And we also need to have this understanding before we go to the real sustainability discussion at this presentation. Because many of you either represent corporate or other plan to work in corporate, or you have some interest about corporate. However, the term corporate sustainability is not talking about the compliance. So boasting, I achieve the environmental protection license, this thing, that thing. So that's not actually corporate sustainability. It's beyond compliance. So anything within your compliance, so that's your license to operate. So that's not sustainable. That's not corporate sustainability. That's not something that you can boast or rather you can sell. So this is something really essential to understand. And here onwards, what we really meant by corporate sustainability or selling the sustainability is beyond compliance. Okay, and we understand being a developing country, we have some compliance challenges in Sri Lanka. However, though we have those challenges, achieve to just until the compliance level, that's not the sustainability selling that we want to have. Okay, so I invite you to use your chat line, and I will also open my chat line to see how it goes. Yeah, so what word comes first when you think about sustainability? Start typing. You have to only use a word, not words. What's come to your mind when you say, hey, what's sustainability? I mean, still 1, 2, 3, here comes, yeah, that's cool. Okay, now we started. Energy saving, green, fuel generation, resources, emissions, nature, long lasting, low carbon energy saving, yeah. Environment, sorry. Then with nature, responsible usage, fuel generation, optimization, discipline, responsible usage, zero carbon, green features. What else? Long term, yeah. Cleanliness, natural cycles. Without controlling anything, the least lost living, best for the next generation while consuming wisely. That's Roseanne, that you're copying, Madame Rutland's words. Super, good to remind once in a while. Earth, bring the natural environment back to an optimum temperature, recycle, pleasant, contribute. That's interesting. Effective resources conservation, use resources well, keeping the generation future, environment durable, energy saving. That social responsibility. Someone came out. There's something called social as well. Thanks, Janta, for reminding that. Here comes productivity, usage of resources. Yeah, long life, a way of life, energy efficiency. Yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? Yeah, cool. Okay, so the list itself, what you are seeing in this now. Oh, maybe I can screen it as well. Oops, I think I made a mistake. Yeah, so here actually that shows the diversity of the word sustainability, from climate change, resources, and very few talk about social part, efficient use of resources, long lasting. And so first of all, I think everyone, let's together understand what's the current sustainability term we used in industry and market. So thank you, Lasit. You helped me with that. That's actually SDGs. So am I trying to tell you that whatever you type is wrong? No. Just think what you type in the chat line. Try to find where what you type in this out of these 17 boxes. I can challenge you. You can find it in one of these 17 boxes. So that's the beauty of the global goals. From the beginning, 2015, we shifted from MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, to Sustainable Development Goals. So at current day, when we talk about sustainability, if you really want to have a high level net, this is it. Don't go for anything. I mean, I can't dictate, but this is my proposition. This is the best net that we can use. 99% of the countries has ratified. Only 2 countries couldn't ratify for this for very different political instability reasons. Everyone ratified this. Sustainable development goals those days, but nowadays they call it global goals. And so they have actually 3 tiers. This topic, then you have the targets, then you have micro level targets, and it has cascaded to country level. And the countries like let's say Australia or USA, where they have federal kind of a governance system, so they have given those targets into different states. The states has given to local authorities likewise, and industries has also accepted the global goals through UN Global UNGC and other UN related industry chambers such as WBCSD. And if you look at NTS4 or Dow Jones Sustainable Index, they are actually co-front leading organizations of SDGs. So I don't want to justify you to consider SDGs. This is actually the overarching sustainability net, and it supports efficient use resources. It supports social part. It supports about long-lasting framework, the base, everything. It's here. So I would like to go through the rest of the presentation based on this SDG or other sustainability net. So how to convert this sustainability risk that we discussed to an opportunity by using this SDG net or global goals. So I'm trying to go through these elements today. Yes, we need certain amount of research, innovation, and we really need to have an application environment to apply what we find for research. So then the market has to be ready, or we have to make it ready, and awareness, access to products, applications, and last but not least, a governance framework. So when I say governance framework, it's not only intra but inter-governance framework set by different government bodies, or can be voluntary or industry commitments coming out from their sustainability frameworks. Okay, so I would like to start this dialogue with the honors. Sorry, uh, these factors and dynamics of a kind of a innovation deficient model. So the BAS model is the most popular innovation deficient model used in world. So you have adapters as potential adapters, and there's a flow to adapters. And it's very interesting by applying this formula to find what make drives the market. So there are two dynamics. As for the BAS deficient model, there are two dynamics. One is the advertising, or all external factors and exposure to those external factors. It can be social media, it can be TV advertisements, or radio, or telemobile advertisements, you name all. Or the other thing is actually a word of mouth, what is very strong in these days. When I ask question, why did you buy the towels from that particular company? When let's say one of my senior office mate, if he or she says, hey, oh, this is the reason, so go for that company and buy the building, so they will do the best construction for you. Super, I'll follow them. So word of mouth is very strong here. So even for sustainability, you need to understand what we can do from advertising, what we can do from word of mouth. The importance of word of mouth, something called adoption fraction. So how the adoption fraction, how it drives actually. So you need to inculcate the awareness on sustainability, else you can't have this adoption fraction. So word of mouth is a multiplication of CIPA. So you can see the formula down. It's adapters, adoption fraction, and contact rate. So being in Asian countries, we have very good contact rate. We talk to each other, not like in developed countries, you are not confined, but you talk to each other. We are a lot of big societies. We are in Facebook all the time. We are in WhatsApp groups and all. So the contact rate is very high. But the only thing is how we can improve the adoption fraction. That's only through awareness. So that's why I mentioned in my previous slide, awareness is very important. And for all these, actually, either for advertising or for word of mouth awareness, you need to find a sales pitch. So what's a sales pitch for a building? That's the next question. And for that, actually, we have created a poll. Now where's that poll? Okay, here comes the poll. So in order to create a sales pitch on buildings, what is the most relevant SDGs in buildings? So here I launched the poll. Now, please go ahead, select. Let's take 30 seconds actually. Take some time and think what is the most important SDGs. What are the most important SDGs? So you can select a number of it out of these choices. Since we don't have much time to discuss with everyone, so justify yourself why you have selected those SDGs, not like tick boxing, just select with a purpose. So yeah, let's take 15 seconds more. Last 5 seconds. Okay, here comes my bonus 3 seconds, guys. Yeah, some are still answering. Okay, let me end the poll now. Thank you very much for participation. And now I'm trying to share the results. So these are the results. So many of you, the highest is sustainable cities and communities. Seems very relevant by the term itself. And the least is actually gender equality. Okay, I have questions, but let's see how it goes. So I will turn this to my next slide. Actually, this shows after certain research, the World Green Building Council, the mother body of all green building councils, how it actually what's their research outcome. So these are the uh, highest impact global goals for buildings as per their research. So this doesn't mean that this has to be a global truth. It can be locally different, but I'm pretty sure these are quite related to buildings. And let's see how it a bit of a quick comparison. Where are we? Yeah. So we talk about 11. We talk about 12. That's there. And yes, of course, 9. Then the 7. Okay. And 3. Yeah. Yeah, here. No poverty. Actually, it can reduce poverty indirectly for sure, though it's not identified. So basically, you can touch base of any of the sustainable development goals to buildings. But the most important question is how to find a marketing pitch through SDGs. Actually, for that question, I don't have a specific answer. Okay, you go with SDG 12 and do eco label, or rather you go with SDG 9 and have the most innovative compartmentalized building or whatever, or the best architect can find. So that's very specific. I, I don't think I can dictate something like that. But thing is, you need to find the most related SDG and nitty-gritties of that and find the impact, the risks, and you bring a solution to mitigate that risk. So your action has to be impactful. So I told once, I have some concern about gender equality. I have seen buildings being marketed, especially public buildings being marketed, saying, especially in the Western or developed part of the world, this is this is the first building to have a gender neutral toilets. So that's gender equality, isn't it? I have seen a one building that's been marketed is one of the banks in Europe. Sorry, I couldn't remember what's that bank. It would have great if I can share that. They talk about their building during the construction phase. They achieved 10% professional labor hours from ladies or the female. Isn't it marvelous? So that talks about the gender equality of buildings. So that's how they pitch that building. So don't try to limit your pitch to the best known environment impact. Oh, climate change, global warming, hey, carbon footprint, that's all. No. Actually, the battle against climate change is, how can I say, the important? Yeah, it's the important at the day. But that doesn't mean that all other SDGs are in second priority. No. There are other important elements. Locally, it may be important than globally. Um, so, so there are other ways that interpret this, sustainability pitch of the buildings. So this is one of the latest research papers from the Goldman Sharif et al. And so this compartmentalized approach, this 4 quadrants, they talk about people, environment, society, and what's the mean. So what's the mean it for the building and for the value addition through out of it. So there are different approaches to categorize, so to identify first, then to categorize SDGs on different segments, especially to pitch differently. But as I said, the most important thing is find what's the local pitch. So let's take an example. Let's take an apartment car park. So the question here for us today is how to increase sustainability performance. So if we can increase sustainability performance in a car park, let's say in different aspects, so it's already then we identify some sustainability risks. By mitigating them, you have implement a very impactful uh, actions. So that's how you can increase sustainable performance. So that's a case study. So the case study here is actually how to increase sustainable performance in an apartment car park. In order to frame us, because in the interest of time, um, let's consider these 6 SDGs, A, B, C, D, E to F. Okay, so um, start thinking how you can improve gender equality, or can we sell a car park in sustainability in a can we find a selling pitch for a car park using gender equality? Can we find an affordable clean energy? Can we approach to industry innovation and infrastructure? Can we have reduced inequality, sustainable cities, or responsible concern production? Take a while, start thinking a bit. What's the right pitch? And don't worry, there aren't any right or wrong answers, because each salesman come with his or her own pitch. So whatever the answer that you give me, I had to say, yes, that's right, because you justifies it. Okay, I'll start with F to A. Responsible consumption and production. Can someone tell me how you can pitch differently building a car park using responsible consumption and production? As I started, I'm really happy to hear your voices. Or if you have any difficulties, you can use the chat line, but always raise the voice is more live. So responsible consumption and production. Yeah, Sandy, thanks. So you say about green building materials. So if you use green building materials, that sounds you are using sustainable products for this construction, obviously. Use solar power for lighting. Yeah, actually, that's a good suggestion, Praveen. However, I think it's more fits around the B or SDG 7. So we are talking about SDG 12 still. Reduce parking area. Why not? Superb. That's the first mitigation point that someone has to start. Why we need a car park? Yeah. And how we can reduce car parking. That's I'm talking about. Next slide on that. Green shading. Exactly, Aruna. Carpooling. Wow. Very interesting. You are helping me to go to my next slide, but I had to I had to do some stuff here. So I like your ideas. First, why don't we think about why we need a car park? Do we need it obviously or not? So if we can get rid of a car park, that's the best. Zero impact. But still, if we justify yes, we need a car park, construction materials, green building, reusable materials, circularity, underground parking. Yeah, so many other options that you can consider. Okay, let's go to E, sustainable cities and communities. How you can pitch building a car park through sustainable cities and communities. Yeah, any ideas? So sustainable cities and communities, actually SDG is highly demanding the connectivity and inclusivity. So one way may be, yes, we have the highest number of allocation for different label or I mean maternal persons. So there are ways and means that you can pitch differently, even a car park through SDGs. Yeah, zero mobility. Yeah, it can be zero personal car use more than zero mobility in the if you align with me. Yeah, and yeah, why not we use it for different purposes? I mean, instead of a car park when it's not been used for a market. Super idea, Danushka. That optimize the area. Actually, that we can say it's sharing economy as well. Super. Common transport services, reduce number of vehicles. Yeah, use public transport, responsible passenger. So actually, here comes your good idea. So if you can embed these ideas to the car park, then that's a sales pitch for you. So this is how we develop a sustainability sales pitch. Shuttle services, yeah, why not? I mean, you can actually market car parks, sorry, apartment buildings, not the car parks. Hey, this is the building with the shuttle service, 10-minute shuttle service. So a good example, sometimes when we reserve the hotels, actually, one thing that I try to find, do they have a shuttle service from airport to that hotel? Then it's easy, save money. And I mean, I don't want to reserve anything. There's a shuttle service every 30 minutes or 40 minutes. I hope in that it's a free city tour. I get down at a hotel. So likewise, so these are the nice selling points. Exactly, Hyperloop services. So here comes the ideas. So now think a bit, is this the way that are we selling sustainability within buildings? I don't think. We are conventional sellers of buildings. I'm not talking about the technical building sales. As I said, I'm not competent to talk about that. I'm not a civil engineer to talk on that. I'm not a house builder to talk on that. I'm not a contractor. I'm not an architect to talk on that. I'm not a QS. But each of us have, if you have a common sense to understand what's the local pitch of sustainability, and if we can touch that pitch through the SDGs, that's the sustainability selling pitch. So it's not only carbon footprint, it's not only water footprint, it's nothing to do with the EPL, that's the compliance. Green buildings, yeah, because green buildings cover 360 assessment, not only on carbon or water, but all other elements as well. And how about the biodiversity? SDG 15, can we sell SDG 15? Can we use SDG 15 as a selling pitch for selling buildings? Can we sell our buildings with certain biodiversity elements? Green walls. Super, Rosanna. You're coming with great ideas here today. Vertical parks. Exactly. Rooftop gardens. What else? Green roof. Yeah, here comes facets. Yeah. So likewise, so I mean, it has to be not something baseline. It shouldn't be infinity pools. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know about that. If you really like Kulatunga, please speak and tell us about what's infinity pools. Even I want to learn if you're happy to do so. Natural ventilation with air inside and air outing with very natural connectivity. And how about a dedicated a green patch or percentage of green patch in between building something? So likewise, actually, you can connect these SDGs to sell your sustainability value propositions in the buildings. So we are still talking about very high level. So I'm not trying to go with you today. Okay, let's go to SDG 9 and go to their targets and objectives to how to pitch that. I mean, that's the next level study that we all has to individually. But my suggestion here today, SDGs are the best selling points of our sustainability nets. Yeah. So gardening, rostering, yes, Roseanne. Actually, it's happening in, I mean, Australia, in the city I live in, Canberra. So we call it actually urban vegetation campaigns. So some Some houses, they have excess garden, the backyards. Actually, they lend those backyards to someone else to come and park their own vegetables from the high-rise residential building. So people who doesn't have access to the backyards, they have access to backyard to someone else. Very nice sharing economy practice. And actually, it's not merely based on money, but percentage of hours. They say, okay, I'll give it to you some percentage. In Sri Lanka, we do it in Kumburu කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. So likewise in Australia, we have this sharing economy practices. So a lot of good practices actually we can inculcate as selling points. Why we again and again telling this, there may be a niche segment like those selling points. So you need to understand that audience. If you are selling those points to someone else who doesn't have any damn care about environment, don't waste your time. But here we are talking about uh, very high level selling points. Okay, since someone already talked here, uh, how about no car park scenario? So you guys are already ahead than me in this slide. Yes, some apartments comes with zero car park, but they have a shared uh, carpool. So they have a shared fleet. So you can book a car on Sunday 10 to 12, and you have like 20 cars. So in Sydney, they have a couple of trials like this. And actually, this paperclip is, I think it's 2018 or 2017, a bit older, but still, I mean, they have started in US some buildings coming with shared car fleet instead of a car park. So the advantages are immense. When you look at the environmental context, if you don't have a car parking area, reduced car park area, you can build a living space, your functional flow there. That's actually an environment benefit, and you can sell it for environment and economic both. Once you have a car fleet actually, or pooling like this, you can start, and once you start pooling, you talk to each other, to the neighbor. So that's something really we miss in our apartment cultures and high-rise buildings. You don't know who's your neighbor, but this kind of a thing, you started talking to each other. So that's something really important to have the synergies of the urban living context. So likewise, actually, someone has to start with no zero, or like no context or a zero context thinking. So these are the people who thought like that, and some of you guys already shared those ideas, and actually these are popping up. However, I have a caveat here. That's actually in Sri Lankan context, there are still how can I say, the barriers. Some of them are technical barriers. Why I say that? So in Sri Lankan context, our public transport system is not developed enough to, I mean, just to operate without a car in some residence area. I'm talking about, let's say, a manager or an exec, some in a company. They really want to have a car for a social um, presentations as well, and that's actually a very different when it comes to some part of the countries in the world. So car is not a um, I mean, it's not a social element for a person, but rather it's actually equipment or an instrument. And the other thing is actually practicing sharing economy. I mean, how you can use a product, not buying a product or not owning a product, but rather you sharing a product. So a good example is this is actually I took this photo from kind of my neighbors here, neighboring urban council. They have a toy box library. So many people around this area, they come with their kids and they pick whatever the toys that they like to have. Actually, all of them are these are donations, not by taxpayers' money. Some people, they play and give that to the library. So likewise, actually, we can have a sharing economy practices to reduce the impact not only on buildings, but this brings people together. So actually, these are selling points. There are people who really want to have this association with like-minded people within our own apartment or something. So these are the selling points for them. So so that's why I'm think like I propose that think the local need. And this is from actually uh, from a CEO's office pick. I with I mean Hilmi's approval, I picked this click especially for this presentation. So what a functional office. So you have the office desk and you have a gym. And if you want to meditate, that's space. Read a book, that's a space. So this is the new normal, especially after COVID. Actually, many parts of the world started working from home like this. So my question is, what's the functional unit? What's the reference unit to measure the environmental impacts? Is it meter square or square feet, something like that? No, actually, I mean, how many hours that you work here? How many hours I mean, you do your daily exercises here. So all these hours contribute to this functional unit, and that's how it minimizes the impact. Instead of you go to your gym, you have your gym here now. Instead you go to office, your gym is in your house, in your home. You operate from there, zero emission. So everything has to calculate and integrate. So everything has to integrate to your calculation. So there's a significant reduction of emissions from this kind of an application. So here onwards, I thought to share some practical things regarding interpretations. Many of us here are not technically sound enough to understand what's presented as B, the bottom panel, the bottom of this the picture here. If you ask, hey, the capacity output of an aircon or rather heater is 4.75 kW. What does it mean for you? Oh, everyone starts catching it. Oh, what's that? What's that? Oh, start Googling and asking from a friend. You don't need to worry. But look at how it has presented in A area, the star ranking. It's easy. So this helps even you to pitch your selling pitch in a practical way. So try to find the most simplest and impactful way to sell that, whatever the indicator, whatever the impact factor you are selling. It can be gender equality, it can be a sustainable city kind of an aspect, it can be affordability of the houses, it can be circularity index, whatever. So, I mean, what happened most of the time, these messages complex the reader, complex the receiver, and get bored. Then the receiver, once the receiver get bored, it's not only the person is not going to buy or I mean, the willing to purchase the product, but he or she starts talking with others saying, what's this? I can't understand. What's this actually? They guys are trying to complex us, and it actually demotivate the other sales as well. So try to be simple and interpret smartly. So yeah. So one example is actually I found in one of the Sri Lankan selling brochures. I don't want to mention the bad stuff. I like to mention the good stuff. But here, that's why I haven't make the picture or image of it. The carbon footprint of this building is something kilogram carbon dioxide per meter square. I mean, who cares? Why for me? I don't know whether it's 200 or 400. Can someone understand if someone told, hey, what's the carbon footprint of this building is this much? I mean, you need to find the effective interpretation. If someone has given an star rating like this, that is a better way to interpret and select those the best ways and be credible. Don't lose your credibility in front of your other stakeholders, your inter stakeholders. So there are different ways that you can demonstrate your credibility. So the highest is actually go with environmental product declarations. There aren't many in Sri Lanka. There are very few. So EPD is actually eco-label type 2. So it's a different standard and it's a very different presentation. So I'm not going to preach on EPDs or eco-labels, but EPDs are the best and best of transparency, interpretation, number, integrity, everything in one piece. So, but it's a tedious process. It's an investment, technically and monetary both. So there are other ways actually you can manage the same, not to the same magnitude, but you can do, I mean, a bit low approach, but still you can be credible. Go for an eco label, go for a good indicator footprint. So again, I'm telling, I'm not only talking about carbon footprint, there are other footprints as well. So some indicators actually they talk about the indicators, eco-label indicators of the paints. So there are, I mean, Green Building Council, there are green products about paints, cement, I mean, other cementitious materials or building and construction materials. So actually, they have to be credible. And one reason for being credible is actually there are programs being demanded, certification programs being demanded in different regions actually. So you can see the blue area is actually some building energy certifications are either mandatory or partially mandated by the governments. So this is the context. So this is the actually the, I mean, what you call the journey that already this country started, and once this is pioneering, others they follow. So you can see the orange, then the yellow, they are also following. And in Sri Lanka, actually, yes, we have a lot of sorry, widespread the voluntary standards, and I think the UDA and other government states bodies actually they are considering to mandate some of these standards in near future. And don't play with your credentials when especially come to sales. So specifically don't boast if not too sure. So I don't have any issue with these commercial logos. Actually, they've been criticized because they are doing a lot of things. However, when it's come to especially the checkpoints or the check gates, such as brand audits, some they found that actually the deliverables are not merely enough as how they boast. So, so I mean, this kind of report can hurt you a lot if you're working for this company or if you are a fan of these brands. So, I mean, my idea is not to pitch these brands as like this, but the overall actually I want to take out of the slide is uh, not like earlier. There are people, there are segments, there are specialists who chase numbers and go to nitty-gritties and come up with the global audits. The best example is the greenwashing index. It's very impartial and unbiased. They go against any brands if they boast like this. And be innovative. So I'm not going to talk much about this, but the circularity matters. And I know that you've been already gone through a presentation about circularity. So one good example is very recently. Uh, so this is the first the hospital they built out of the revolutionizing recycled materials, and some industries are breaking the barriers. So LafargeHolcim, one of the largest cement brands, they started signing agreements with wind industry because in industry actually these wind farms has to demolish at one point, and in some countries they need to have demolition license and approval parties for them, and that recyclability and material security is a must. So these are the break the barriers. So who has ever thought that renewable energy can have an implication with circularity? Here it goes. Yes, and it's a business opportunity as well. So so all this actually has different selling points. So we can't apply all these selling points in a building, but there are niche areas that we can actually pitch and apply altogether. And don't forget to talk about the life cycle approach of the building. So it's, as I started, it's not only the operationalized phase, but throughout the life cycle. And it's not like passing the burden. So at one point I can, hey, I have very nice, good material, sustainable material, blah, 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 and all. And when if someone asks question, what's the best way to dispose this material in future? So, oh, sorry, I didn't thought about that. Sorry, that's not the solution then. So think life cycle approach. And um, governments are demanding. So this is actually from today's BBC News. So the British government today they published their right to repair rule. So I mean, manufacturers are mandated now. At least they have to take care 10 years of the repairing spare parts banks for whatever the products that they make. It's interesting and think different to pitch different. So this is from I'm one of our own companies, MAs, how they started the seed bombing and very interesting, innovative idea. So instead of planting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all trees, why not we do the seed bombing? So it's not actually this is not a relevant example for a building, but if you are cleaning an area, a natural area to build to go on a construction and build something, then if you want to negate that impact, let's say you select some area to vegetate, this may be a good proposition to implement. And things are moving very fast. So this is actually from Miami last week, oh sorry, last month. Uh, Very interesting profiles they are creating in their local government bodies. Chief Heat Officer. Hmm, yeah, climate change is really practically taken into the consideration of the local governments. I'm not expecting this designation in Sri Lanka in near future, but things are moving towards this direction. And your businessmen, your buyers are not only from Sri Lanka or not only from the buyers, they don't not cap the ideas within Sri Lanka. Some they come with very international ideas, global ideas. So these are actually important to understand where it's trending. So it's not to ask to appoint a chief heat officer. That's not the whole purpose of this sharing this slide. But please keep your eyes and ears open because the trend is towards this side. So as a summary, so the selling sustainability starts with map the most impactful SDG. It's not merely the only one or two technical impacts, most impacting SDG and where I can give the maximum contribution by demonstrating an impactful difference. So with all that, be local because you need to have local pitch, simple, else no one can understand, credible, don't quote with green indexes, think different and innovative. That's the differentiator uh, who someone wanted to approach or to listen to. And as last mentioned, keep eyes ears open, keep updated because things are moving fast. And I understand I took almost an hour, but I'm really happy to take any questions should you have.
Thank you very much, sir, for that interesting and knowledgeable session. We hope you all received a good comprehensive on this new area of concern from the talk. If you have any questions, you can direct them to Mr. Chalaka. So I received one question, sir. It's regarding the how are buildings important for sustainability in what context?
Can you repeat the question, please, Siraj?
How are buildings important for sustainability in what context?
Yeah, actually, uh, the question itself has two directions. One, buildings are important for sustainability. Reason building contributes nearly 40% of GHG gases as of now. It's reducing, but that's actually a good area to control or to make progress towards reducing greenhouse gases. That's a contribution to sustainability. And as I said, the other approach is actually sustainability supports building as well, not only to sell the building, but actually to make that building more value creation. So it's like so that's why I said it's an equilibrium. So that's why I particularly select the topic in this way, um, selling sustainability buildings. So you can easily actually you can sell buildings with sustainability as well.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So if you have any questions, we can accept 2 or 3 questions at the moment. Or you can switch on your mic and you can directly present to the our speaker, or you can type in the chat box as well.
I think it seems everyone.
Yes.
uh,
So I think we can wind up the session.
yep,
So if we have any questions in future, you can write to us. So we will forward it to Mr. Chalaka. Thank you, Mr. Chalaka, again for sparing your valuable time to enlighten us, although you are not in good health condition. And thank you very much for all of you for participating with us. So until we catch up with another event of Green Building Council of Sri Lanka, stay safe and have a good night, everyone. Thank you, sir.
good night, everyone. Just bye. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.